Let me ask you something. Have you ever wanted to improve your English, your habits, or your life, but you just couldn't start? You sit down, you plan your goals, you feel motivated for a moment, and then nothing happens. You promise yourself you will work tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes, and you feel stuck again. Many people think this is laziness, but it isn't. It's something deeper. In this episode, you will learn why you feel stuck, why procrastination happens, and how to break the cycle gently, step by step. By the end, you will understand your mind better, and you will know simple ways to move forward, not just in English learning, but in life too. You will also see why this problem is emotional, not a character weakness, and how small actions can create big change. So as you listen, stay open, stay curious, and give yourself permission to learn with kindness. You're not lazy, you're simply stuck. And together, we will learn how to become unstuck. And if this lesson gave you something useful, I'd love it if you tapped like and subscribe to the channel. It helps you stay connected, and it also helps this little learning community grow. Every click really does make a difference. With love. Let's dive in. What causes procrastination to appear in your life? Procrastination often shows up when your mind feels uncomfortable. It is not because you do not want to work or grow. It happens because a task triggers a feeling you don't know how to handle. Sometimes the task feels too big, sometimes it feels unclear, and sometimes it makes you face a fear you don't want to look at. Your brain wants protection, so it pulls you away from the task and toward distractions. When you understand this, everything becomes easier. You stop saying, "I'm lazy," and you start recognizing that your emotions are asking for support. Many English learners procrastinate because lessons feel overwhelming or because they worry about making mistakes. The emotion, not the task, creates the resistance. When you begin to see procrastination as an emotional signal, you can respond with calmness and care instead of criticism. This shift makes starting easier, continuing easier, and finishing possible. Remember, procrastination is not a problem with your personality. It is simply a message from your mind that you need clarity, comfort, or smaller steps before moving forward. Why does fear of failure make you avoid starting? Fear of failure is one of the strongest emotional blocks. When you believe you might fail, your mind tries to protect you by stopping you from beginning. It whispers thoughts like, "What if I can't do it?" Or, "What if I try and still don't succeed?" These thoughts create tension, and that tension turns into procrastination. Many English learners feel this when they want to practice speaking. They avoid it, not because they don't care, but because they secretly worry about sounding wrong or being judged. When fear becomes too loud, the brain chooses safety instead of growth. The solution is not to fight the fear, but to understand it gently. When you say to yourself, "It's okay to try even if I'm not perfect," you reduce the emotional pressure. Starting becomes easier because you remove the heavy expectation of getting everything right immediately. The moment you allow mistakes, something powerful happens. Your mind relaxes, your body feels lighter, and you begin to act with more freedom. Fear loses its power when you choose progress instead of perfection. How does overwhelm keep you from taking action? Overwhelm happens when your brain sees a task as too large or too complicated. Even if you have the motivation, the task feels like a mountain. This feeling creates stress, and your mind responds by shutting down. This is why many people say they feel frozen or tired before they even begin. For English learners, overwhelm often appears when studying vocabulary, watching long videos, or learning grammar. It feels like there is too much to learn, so you avoid the work altogether. But overwhelm is not a sign that you cannot learn. It simply means the task is not broken into small enough parts. When you divide something big into tiny, manageable steps, the emotional pressure decreases. Your brain feels safe, and starting becomes natural. You don't need to finish everything today. You only need to begin with one clear, simple step. Overwhelm disappears when clarity appears, and clarity comes from making the task smaller, lighter, and easier to begin. Why does perfectionism secretly stop your progress? Perfectionism looks like a desire to do well, but underneath it hides fear. When you want everything to be perfect, you create a standard so high that you cannot even start. You tell yourself you need the perfect plan, the perfect energy, or the perfect moment. And until that appears, you wait. This waiting becomes procrastination. Many English learners experience this when they refuse to speak until their grammar feels perfect, or when they avoid writing because they are afraid of making mistakes. Perfectionism is a trap because it focuses on avoiding errors instead of building skill. Real growth happens through practice, not through waiting. When you choose improvement over perfection, you create movement, and movement creates confidence. The truth is, perfection is not required to learn well. What you need is consistency, patience, and a willingness to be imperfect while you grow. When you give yourself permission to be a learner, everything becomes smoother. Perfectionism loses its control, and action feels more natural. What does it mean to be emotionally stuck, not lazy? Being emotionally stuck means your mind is trying to protect you from something that feels difficult or uncomfortable. It is not about low energy or weak discipline. It is about emotional signals that pull you away from action. Sometimes the signal is fear, sometimes doubt, sometimes tiredness, and sometimes old habits. When these emotions rise, your brain switches into avoidance mode. This is why you might feel the desire to clean your room instead of studying, or scroll on your phone instead of practicing English. The mind is searching for relief, not success. Understanding this removes shame and builds self-respect. You no longer say, "Why am I so lazy?" Instead, you say, "What emotion is stopping me right now?" This question creates awareness, and awareness gives you control. When you see what is happening inside you, you can make softer, smarter choices. You can respond instead of reacting, and when you respond with kindness, your ability to take action improves naturally, without force or guilt. How can micro steps make action feel possible again? Micro steps are tiny actions that are so small your brain cannot resist them. When a task feels too big, your mind avoids it. But when a task feels extremely easy, your mind relaxes and allows you to start. A micro step might be opening the textbook without studying yet, or watching 1 minute of an English video, or writing just one simple sentence. These steps are not about finishing. They are about creating movement. Once you begin, momentum grows, and it often becomes easier to continue. Micro steps also build trust with yourself. You prove that you can take action, even on low energy days. This creates confidence and consistency. Research shows that the brain loves small wins because they release positive chemicals that make you want to continue. So when you feel stuck, do not force yourself to do the whole task. Choose the smallest possible action. Make it so easy that you cannot say no. This simple method is one of the fastest ways to break procrastination and build daily progress. Why is self-compassion a powerful tool against procrastination? Many people believe they need to be hard on themselves to improve. They think discipline means pushing their emotions away and forcing themselves to act. But self-criticism actually increases stress, and the stress makes procrastination stronger. Self-compassion works differently. It calms the emotional system, reduces pressure, and helps your brain feel safe enough to begin. When you say to yourself, "It's okay to feel this way. I can still take a small step," you create space for movement. English learners often blame themselves when they forget vocabulary or struggle to stay consistent, but gentle acceptance helps more than frustration. Self-compassion is not weakness. It is emotional intelligence. It allows you to stay in the learning process without fear or shame. When you treat yourself like someone you care about, you stay motivated for longer periods. You become patient with mistakes, patient with progress, and patient with your journey. And this patience makes consistency possible. How does the 1-minute rule help you start immediately? The 1-minute rule is a simple technique that removes resistance by shrinking the beginning of any task to only 60 seconds. Instead of planning a long study session, you promise yourself to work for just 1 minute. This makes starting incredibly easy because the pressure is almost zero. After 1 minute, something interesting happens. Most people naturally continue because the hardest part, the beginning, is already done. For English learners, this rule works beautifully. You can read 1 minute of text, listen to 1 minute of a podcast, or review vocabulary for 1 minute. Even if you stop after that, you still win because you practiced. The rule takes advantage of how the brain works. It teaches your mind that starting is safe, not scary. And when you repeat this rule daily, you build a strong habit of showing up. You become consistent without feeling overwhelmed. The 1-minute rule trains your brain to move forward gently, and gentle progress leads to strong long-term results. How do identity-driven habits change your behavior? Identity-driven habits focus on who you want to become, not just what you want to do. When you say, "I want to study English," it feels like a task. But when you say, "I am becoming a consistent English learner," it becomes part of your identity. The mind works harder for identity than for tasks. When you act in a way that matches who you want to become, your motivation increases naturally. This is because your actions feel meaningful, not forced. You no longer study just to finish a lesson. You study because every small moment proves the identity you are building. Identity-driven habits remove emotional resistance because they connect your daily actions to a bigger purpose. You stop fighting with yourself and start supporting your future self. When you see yourself as a learner who shows up daily, even for small steps, it becomes easier to stay consistent and grow with confidence. Why should you embrace imperfection while learning? Imperfection is not a problem. It is a natural part of growth. When you reject imperfection, you reject the learning process. This creates pressure, fear, and procrastination. But when you accept that mistakes will happen, learning becomes lighter and more enjoyable. English learners often feel embarrassed when they pronounce something incorrectly or forget a word. But these moments are evidence that you are trying, not failing. Imperfection helps your brain build new pathways. Every error teaches your mind something new. When you embrace imperfection, your emotional energy becomes free. You stop holding yourself back. You start practicing more, speaking more, and exploring more. You become curious instead of afraid. And curiosity creates faster progress than perfection ever could. The more comfortable you are with being imperfect, the more consistent and confident you become. How do small wins strengthen your motivation? Small wins may look tiny, but inside the brain, they create powerful chemical rewards. When you complete something simple, like studying for a few minutes or finishing a short exercise, your brain releases positive signals that increase motivation. These signals make you feel proud and capable. Over time, these feelings build strong confidence. Many people believe they need big achievements to feel motivated, but the brain works the opposite way. It grows motivation through repeated small successes. Each small win tells your mind, "I can do this." When you collect these wins daily, they create a strong foundation of self-belief. For English learners, celebrating small wins is essential. It keeps you emotionally connected to your progress. And when you appreciate your small steps, you create a positive learning environment inside yourself. This helps you continue even on difficult days. How can accountability help you move forward? Accountability means having someone or something that gently supports your goals. It could be a friend, a teacher, a community, or even a simple habit tracker. When you share your intention or record your progress, it becomes easier to stay consistent. The reason is emotional. When you are accountable, the task feels shared, not heavy. You feel seen, supported, and encouraged. Accountability reduces the pressure of doing everything alone. For English learners, this can be joining a small study group, messaging a friend, or keeping a daily log. These systems help you stay focused, even when motivation drops. Accountability creates structure, and structure builds momentum. When you know you will check in with someone or with yourself, procrastination loses its power. You begin to show up with more reliability and confidence. Why do routines transform resistance into momentum? Routines turn actions into habits and habits into automatic behavior. When you have a routine, you do not need to fight with yourself every day. You don't need to make big decisions, and you don't rely on sudden motivation. The routine guides you. This lowers emotional resistance and makes progress predictable. For English learners, even a short routine such as studying for 5 minutes at the same time each day creates strong momentum. Over time, your brain begins to expect the activity, and starting becomes easier. Routines also give you stability during stressful periods. They keep your growth alive even when life feels messy. When you create a simple routine and follow it gently, you train your mind to show up consistently. And consistency is the heart of mastery in any skill, including language learning. What can you do today to become unstuck for good? To become unstuck, you need a combination of understanding, kindness, and action. Understanding helps you see that procrastination is emotional, not laziness. Kindness helps you stay patient while you learn new habits. And action, especially small action, helps you create forward movement. You do not need to change everything at once. You only need to begin with something tiny, something friendly, something you can repeat daily. When you start with a micro step, apply the 1-minute rule, or follow a simple routine, you create space for growth. When you practice self-compassion and embrace imperfection, you remove the emotional blocks that once held you back. And when you build identity-driven habits, you begin to see yourself as someone who shows up, someone who improves, someone who grows. You are not lazy, you are human. And with the right tools, your progress can be steady, strong, and deeply meaningful. Your journey toward consistency starts today with one small, gentle step. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the next lesson. Your support means so much. It keeps this space alive and growing. With love. Thank you for being here, and I can't wait to continue this journey with you.